let me start by saying hi, everyone. This is a little conversation between myself and Chris Burres from C60 Evo fame. So it is a beautiful day today. How are things for you, Chris?
Things are amazing. Actually, here in Houston, the weather is beautiful. My wife and I were in New York we just got out before that blizzard landed. So I know there are people in the country who are not pleased with their weather. I actually sat outside and had a business conversation with a colleague of mine. Yes, last night it was quite nice. So yeah, things are really good here in Houston.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, it is sunny and kind of warm today. I think it's going to be 36. So it's that's not warm by Houston standards. but
I've
the
been
snow
told,
is melting.
I have been told it gets so cold that you get into the mid 30s and your people are ready to wear shorts. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's a true experience.
my son has been wearing shorts for the last 2 weeks. So I was like, okay, that's not me, but that's both he and my grandson. They're like, oh man, it's really hot. I'm like, what are you going to do when it's 90 degrees? So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, what are we going to talk about today? I would like to focus on the whole topic of aging or not
Mm,
aging, as the case might be. So,
yep.
um, where do you want to start?
Yeah, well, I do have a presentation, so I'll pull that up, and we're
Okay.
gonna dig
All right.
into the history of this molecule, and we can tie that back to aging, obviously, because the results are pretty amazing. The single longest longevity experimental result on mammals in history, peer-reviewed published research. So let me share my screen and talking about this molecule. I'm gonna do that right here, which is the ESS60 molecule.
Okay.
This molecule, by the way, it's beautiful, right? There's a book about this molecule called The Most Beautiful Molecule, because it's super unique, and part of its uniqueness, who writes a book about a molecule and then calls it beautiful,
I was going to say, must have been written by
right?
a scientist.
Exactly. And so this molecule, ESS60, was discovered in 1985 at Rice University, which is here in Houston,
Oh,
where
yeah.
our lab is based. It was discovered by these three scientists. That's Dr. Smalley, Dr. Curl, and Dr. Croto. And they went on to win the Nobel Prize in 1996 for the discovery of this molecule. I
Wow.
love to share our lab started manufacturing it in 1991, a full 5 years before they won the Nobel Prize.
Oh,
So
wow.
I'm I'm not a very braggadocious person. So the most braggadocious thing you might hear me say is it is not unreasonable to suggest that the fact that we were delivering commercial quantities of this ESS60 molecule to research institutions around the world so that scientists could play with it and understand it.
Oh,
And their understanding led to the awareness of how amazing this molecule is, and that is part of the reason that they won the Nobel Prize.
right.
That's not unreasonable to suggest that.
No, it's not. And that is really quite wonderful. Thank you for supplying those people because it is really quite a molecule when you understand the whole story and what its effects are. So,
Yeah. And so the part of the reason they won the Nobel Prize is because this molecule is amazing. It performs as well or better than the current best material in almost every application. So it makes better inks, better batteries, better tires, better photocells. This is where people get nervous, right? Because we're talking about a health supplement. And then the story
right.
gets a little because nobody in your audience woke up today and thought, I wonder what part of my car battery I should be consuming on a daily basis for my longevity, right?
No, probably
And the
not.
story, right? Just we can assume that it's a safe
Yeah,
assumption. So
right.
the story gets a little worse first because this shape that's front and center on this ESS60 molecule is the
Mhm.
same shape, although a different formula, chemical formula, but the same shape as benzene. And benzene is ubiquitous in our society and is
Yeah,
necessary for modern society. And to offer up some proof, if you just look around you, anything that's plastic would be gone without the benzene ring.
right.
Many medications have the benzene ring as the foundational molecule. including aspirin. And so we don't have modern society without the benzene ring. It's ubiquitous. But what's interesting about the benzene ring is when it's all on its own, it is known to be toxic and known to be carcinogenic. For that reason, they put this, I know the story gets worse. Now the story starts to get better.
Okay.
For that reason, they put this molecule in a toxicity study. And again, instead of being toxic, the test subjects lived 90% longer than the control group. So I'm going to talk about kind of three pieces of that original study published in 2012. I'm very proud to share that our lab provided the material and our lab is mentioned in that original study. And the three pieces that I want to talk about, life extension. So these Wistar rats lived 90% longer. They also didn't have tumors. We're going to dive into that. And then there was a separate piece. At one point, my director of research came to me and he said, this particular paper could be 5 separate research papers because they did so much good stuff in it. And then this one is a carbon tetrachloride challenge study that really is looking at the recovery of the livers. So if we dive in, so this original study, again, it was supposed to be a toxicity study. And they had 3 groups of rats. One group was the water rat. That was a control. They were given water. That's a control group. One group was given olive oil. That's a semi-control group. And then the ones that were supposed to die earlier because the molecule was supposed to be toxic are the ESS60 in olive oil rats. And you can look, a typical Wistar rat lives about 32 months. And of course, the water control, because that's not having a positive or negative impact on the rats, they lived out to 32 months. Interesting, the olive oil rats lived out to 38 months, an 18% increase in their lifespan. So I like to say, hey, if you like olive oil, even if you don't like olive oil, you probably should be consuming more olive oil. There's a guy, Dr. Stephen Gundry, who's really, really well known, and he shares that the purpose of food is to get more olive oil into your mouth, which is just a testament, right, of how valuable he sees olive oil. Now that's great, an 18%, 38 months, but look at this: the ESS60 rats, and that ESS60 was dissolved in olive oil all the way out to 62 months, right?
That's amazing.
Actually. Right. Absolutely. The single longest longevity experimental result on mammals in history, peer-reviewed published research. And again, our lab provided the material and our lab is mentioned in that original study. So super, super happy and proud about that. I'm going to jump to that carbon tetrachloride and then we're going to come back to the tumors.
Okay.
So this was a separate group of rats, right? Because they went through a different protocol. They were still the same groupings, meaning one small group of rats were given water, the control group. One small group of rats were given olive oil, the semi-control group. And then you had the ESS60 treated rats. They were injected with carbon tetrachloride, which is actually an oxidative agent that attacks the liver. 24 hours after being injected with this carbon tetrachloride, they were euthanized and they looked at the livers. These are representations of the slides, but they're pretty good representations. Those slides can be found in that original paper, which is called the Botti paper. And what is not surprising for the water rats is they had the typical response to carbon tetrachloride, which is they've got dead cells, they've got inflammation, they've got problematic cells that's caused by this carbon tetrachloride. Now, with the olive oil, there was some recovery, right? Again, olive oil, really good for you. So there was some recovery of that carbon tetrachloride. With the ESS60 rats, almost complete recovery in the livers. So if you think about this, it's like we know that it's a great antioxidant, and we'll jump into that. But a great antioxidant in the liver is really on the table, given this particular result.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Wait, it gets better.
Okay. I have to share before you go on. I did my own little experiment with, I was taking C60. I've been taking it for, I don't know, a year and a half, maybe. And I thought, I'm going to stop and see if it makes any difference. So I stopped for 1 month. And at the end of the month, I looked older. I felt older. I was tired all the time. It was just, I just felt like something was not right. And so I ended up thinking, okay, let me go back on it and see if I can sense any change. And all of that went away. And I just did that. It was like from mid-December to mid-January, and maybe the end of December to the end of January. And when I started it up again, it was like, oh, wow, this is amazing stuff. That was what my thought was. So, yeah. So
well, and I can share kind of a parallel story. And it's tied to, we're actually working on starting a migraine study. And one of the reasons we're starting the migraine study is because, well, I am the geeky guy that you see in front of you. I have a spreadsheet back to 2014 tracking my 4 or 5 migraines per year.
Oh.
Yeah, and migraine's horrible. I don't know if you've ever had a migraine, right? But you
one time after surgery, it was awful.
No, it's impressively miserable. Like, it's just impressively miserable, right?
It is.
And then that's why I was tracking them. I'm trying to figure out like what's causing them. Like, right. How do I make sure that they never happen again?
Yep.
When I started taking this product in 2018, I didn't get a migraine for 18 months.
Oh,
so wow. I should have had 6 or 7 migraines by this point. And then to parallel your story, when I got my first migraine, it was because I went off of our product to join our sleep study.
Oh.
So I go off the product to join the sleep study. I get a migraine. I haven't gone off the product since. Yeah. By the way, just as a side note, that sleep study was very interesting. It was a crossover study where we collected 10 days of survey data before people tried the product, 10 days on the product, 10 days back off the product, and then 10 days on the product again. And 100% of the participants reported improvements in sleep when they were on the product.
Oh, yeah.
And if you think about looking older, feeling tired, if you get deeper sleep, you're going to look younger. That's you're going to feel younger. You're going to be less tired.
Right.
So there's really good parallels.
Yeah. Very good.
Yeah. So, yeah. And we do get that. Like I've seen, on, Google testimonials or Google reviews where you can go confirm them. There was this one lady, she said, I think it was, she said in her review, at the 3-month mark, at 3-week mark, I hadn't really noticed anything. So I reached out and I canceled my subscription.
Oh.
And then like a week later, kind of like you, she was like, whoa, now I know what's going on. I will never stop, I turned back on my subscription and I will never stop taking your product ever again. We have so many testimonials from, kind of the average client to people in the health and wellness space who have said, I will never stop taking your product.
It just makes you feel like everything is good or normal. Mm-hmm. And you don't realize it doesn't do anything wild and crazy. Do you know what I mean? You just kind of smooth out and keep moving and feel good all the time. And so it's like, is it doing anything? Because you just feel good. And then when you stop, it's like, write down. I'm tired. I'm this. And I didn't notice. I sleep well anyway. So I didn't notice much change with the sleep. But wow, there was a change in my skin, a change in my breath, a change in my eyesight, a change in my feeling of energy. Like, okay, it's time to do this. I work a lot. I work 12-hour days, 7 days a week. And that's just my norm. It's been that way for years. And all of a sudden I was like, okay, is it time to quit? I work from noon until midnight every day. And I was wanting to quit at 6 o'clock, which was halfway through my day. And so, it makes a difference. It's a nice, even, smooth difference. Sweet, very sweet.
Very cool. All right, so let's get into the kind of exciting piece of this study. I mean, it's already exciting, but we'll keep going.
Right.
So a typical Wistar rat actually lives about 32 months, as we've mentioned, and has a known amount of tumor mass in its body. So you can see this tumor mass is increasing as the time goes by.
Right.
Even though the C60 Evo rats lived out to 62 months, none of them had any tumors, right? So if you were to project this line, really it should have been some massive amount of tumors way up here, but they had 0 tumors. Now, I've shared this story and people have said, oh, cure for cancer. And I've said, wait, no. And then I've followed that with another no. There's a big difference between dealing with a cancer that has metastasized
Right.
potentially being a cancer preventative. And we know things as simple as good nutrition, good exercise, good sleep are cancer preventatives. This just throws this molecule, the ESS60 molecule, into that arena. I will share one other study that I think is kind of pretty profound. Now, it's a Petri dish study. So the lowest level of study, but there's some good reasons to share this. So in a Petri dish, they took healthy cells, cancer cells and healthy cells, and they introduced an anti-cancer agent, which is a poison. Really, you're trying to poison the cancer cells before the healthy cells, right?
Right.
In the presence of the ESS60 molecule, when they added the anti-cancer agent, there was increased efficacy against the cancer cells and protective effects for the healthy cells. So more cancer cells died, less healthy cells died, again, in a Petri dish.
Wow.
So really phenomenal results. And I'm going to talk about what we think this molecule is doing in the mitochondria, why we think this might have happened, not the specific mechanisms, but is the fact that this molecule, we believe, is working in the mitochondria.
Yeah.
And cancer cells, their mitochondria, use a different energy source than healthy cells.
That's right.
And, right. So you've got a difference here, and you've got this molecule in that area. There's something, we think there's something going on there. We just got to do a lot more research before we can make, any claims along those lines.
That is absolutely fabulous. It's hard to believe that they lived twice as long, or even more than twice as long, and they didn't have any tumors. It's like, what?
Yeah. No, it's amazing. This might be arguably the most profound piece of the particular study. And I want to jump into what we think this is doing. Why is this probably happening? And it's called the BOSS theory, right? So BOSS stands for buffering oxidative stress system.
Okay.
So we know from peer-reviewed published research that the ESS60 molecule gets into the mitochondria. We also know from way back in the 90s that this ESS60 molecule can hold up to 6 negatively charged particles on the exterior of the cage. And here's how that plays out.
Wow.
So your mitochondria is the powerhouse of every cell. There's between 50 and 5,000 mitochondria in every cell in your body, except for your blood cells, which have 0, and your brain and neurons, which have 2 million, right? When we start thinking about my experience, right, in that spreadsheet back to 2014, if this is addressing, according to the BOSS theory, the mitochondria, and you have 2 million in every cell in your brain, like there's a lot of impact there.
Yeah.
Now,
wow.
Like every power source, again, mitochondria, power source of your cells, there is a negative byproduct. You think about a car going down the road, it's got exhaust. You think about a power plant, it's got smoke coming out of the smokestack. In the case of mitochondria, it's reactive oxygen species.
Right.
And the way I picture these is if they're left to their own devices, they're like little bumper cars, and everything they bump into, they rust, they cause oxidative stress, right? They cause oxidative damage, ultimately inflammation. And you can see here in a healthy mitochondria, we've kind of mapped these out as this beautiful baby blue orbs that are bonded reactive oxygen species. They can't act like bumper cars causing damage because they've bonded with the internal mechanisms, glutathione and melatonin. So your mitochondria has glutathione and melatonin interior to it to manage those reactive oxygen species. So everything's all good. We don't have to worry about those bumper cars. There's no problems here. But what happens when you stress a mitochondria? This, of course, begs the question, how do you stress a mitochondria? I point out that if you're alive in modern society, you have stressed mitochondria, right? Yeah, you're like, okay, I got it.
Pretty standard.
Right? If it's EMF exposure, right, from the device you're carrying around with you and holding up to your head, if it's radiation coming off of your computer, if it's too much sunlight, smoking, drinking, tough conversations, you have stressed mitochondria. And when you do, the mitochondria starts producing more energy for the cells, and the additional byproduct of more reactive oxygen species then can be managed by the glutathione or melatonin. And that's why they're red in this image. You can see there's some that are bonded, right? The mitochondria is doing as good a job as it can to bond those reactive oxygen species with glutathione and melatonin. But the extra ones are now left. They even get out of the mitochondria. So they do damage in the mitochondria. They do damage outside of those bumper cars running around causing that oxidative stress. And that's where the ESS60 molecule comes in. It holds on to up to 6 of those negatively charged particles, so they can't run around like little bumper cars. And then when that mitochondria replenishes the glutathione, which it can do, and replenishes the melatonin, then it bonds to them and they turn from this red, spiky, bad reactive oxygen species to the beautiful blue ones that aren't causing any damage.
Oh my, do you mean that the C60 ESS?
The ESS60, yeah.
ESS 60. See, I just got in the habit of saying C60 Evo. So
yeah.
That actually converts some of that ROS, reactive oxygen?
We don't think it converts it, right? So I have another analogy to help this land, right? And I don't know if you agree with me. I feel like all biological analogies should start with Mardi Gras.
Okay. Yeah.
Because, a lot of biology happens at Mardi Gras, so why not? So it's the end of Mardi Gras, and you have these drunk reactive oxygen species on Bourbon Street, right? Running around, causing oxidative stress, smashing windows, spray paint stuff, whatever.
And they do.
Yeah. And you have the New Orleans Police Department coming onto Bourbon Street. That's the glutathione and melatonin coming onto Bourbon Street, handcuffing themselves to those reactive oxygen species and getting them off of Bourbon Street. But what does the New Orleans Police Department do when they're overwhelmed? They take those reactive oxygen species, the drunk reactive oxygen species, and they put them in a paddy wagon. They attach them to the exterior of this cage so they can't do any damage. And then when that mitochondria, the New Orleans Police Department, replenishes the glutathione, replenishes the melatonin, then they can handcuff themselves to those reactive oxygen species and get them off of Bourbon Street.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's not replacing glutathione. It's not replacing the police, right? The paddy wagon can't replace the police. It just holds everything safely so it can't do any damage until the new police recruits come in, and now they manage those reactive oxygen species.
And if one molecule can hold 6 other molecules, that's a 600% increase in the power to reduce, the bad boys.
Get this, right? So our standard product is an olive oil product.
Yeah.
And it's the high quality extra virgin olive oil with as much of the ESS60 molecule as we can get to dissolve in it. Yep. 1 drop of this olive oil has more than 400 times as many of these ESS60 molecules as you have cells in your body.
Oh my gosh.
400 times more than cells, which makes sense because if this is going to have an impact, a systemic impact, there's between 50 and 5,000 mitochondria in every cell in your body, except for your brain and your nervous system, which have 2 million. So you need a lot of these ESS60 molecules doing their boss function. And by the way, the summary is, if you reduce the negative impact of stressed mitochondria, then you should have systemic benefits, and you should have what we have, which are head-to-toe testimonials.
Yeah. And I'll just make a comment. One of the things that gets used up in stress almost immediately is glutathione.
Yep.
And then you don't have any protection.
Yep.
So that's C60 would be a boon to the cell and the mitochondria in terms of helping step in where the glutathione, without glutathione, you get moles, you get skin tags, you get cancers and tumors, you get all kinds of stuff, all kinds of growths out of control. So, that's, wow.
Yeah. And then my last slide is just kind of people are like, hey, how might I anticipate some response on this, right? And it's interesting because you're like, it's subtle, and then you go off of it and go back on it, and you really notice. I did have a marketing company tell me, we need to add a laxative to your product so people know that something's happening when they take it. And I'm like, okay, I know where you're coming from. We're not going to do that.
No.
Right? Because it's subtle. Think about this.
Yeah, it is.
We're just supporting your mitochondria.
Right.
And we're just saying, hey, when it's stressed, which it's not always stressed, not every mitochondria in your body is stressed all the time, but when it is stressed, we're reducing that negative impact. that
Yeah,
sounds like it's going to be subtle, right? And it
it
just
would be.
starts to compound and be
Yeah.
advantageous. Our most consistent testimonial is people take the product in the morning, they report mental focus and energy during the day, and then better sleep that night.
Okay.
And we like to think about our product as a kind of a 3-month experience, and it parallels that most consistent testimonial. So month one, it's really about focus and energy. And I lean on one particular testimonial. We got some product to a lady. She took the product, recorded a video, and sent it in, and pointed out that she didn't finish her cup of coffee that
Oh,
day.
wow.
Right. And if you're a coffee drinker, noticing that you didn't finish your cup of coffee is a big deal.
Yeah.
And I'll share, I used to be a 2 to 3 day cup of coffee per day person until I started taking this. And now really I'm like a half a cup, and a lot of it's the
That's
ritual,
interesting.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And you're making me think. I have noticed that I've let go of all of coffee and tea and don't miss it. I mean, if I go out to dinner, sometimes I'll get a cup of coffee with my dinner or after dinner, but for the most part, I just drink water. And that was never the case with me. I was drinking tea like there was no tomorrow. So, yeah, big change there. And I never put that together with the start of C60, but they kind of go together.
Yeah.
So,
No, again, one of our most consistent testimonials is that focus and energy. And
yeah,
that's probably why you were drinking the tea. And
yeah,
or definitely why she was drinking the coffee, and now you've got that focus and energy. So
yeah.
just
I
great
never
testimonies.
think of it. I just never think of I need a cup of tea, where before that was several times a day at least. So,
I can tell you from my kind of experience in 2018, I started to take this more on a regular basis, but it
uh-huh.
wasn't yet part of my coffee routine. So I could get to the afternoon, 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and if I was craving a nap or another cup of coffee, I could always look back to the morning and I had forgotten to take my C60
Oh,
Evo.
okay.
Right
Yep.
now, it's part of my coffee routine. I have a little bit of our MCT product in my coffee. I'm taking a teaspoon and a half of our product.
Yep.
So now that just doesn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Ditto.
So
Wow.
to give it, so there is also the potential for some weight loss benefits in starting immediately. The research on if you replace some saturated fats with a high quality extra virgin olive oil like ours, then that can have some weight loss benefits. So that's certainly a potential.
Okay. Yeah.
Month two, we start to think about sleep.
Mm.
And the testimonial I lean on here is I have a business coach, and my business coach shares that for 50 years he needed an alarm clock to wake up.
Oh, wow.
When he started taking this formula, he wakes up before the alarm clock.
Oh,
Now, he's a business coach, so he's got late night business mixers and late night
yeah.
business dinners. None of that matters, except
Nope.
for if he doesn't get the product for about 10 days, he starts to need the alarm clock again. And that's what
Okay.
in the literature it says this molecule clears out of your system in about 10 days.
Okay.
Um, so I think that's pretty impressive. And
Yeah.
then finally, again, if you think about reducing the negative impact on stress mitochondria, and we're having systemic benefits, frankly, the testimonials at the 3-month mark are so strong that we can't share them. We actually have to do more research so that the FDA will allow us to share them. Like
Yeah.
those are the kinds of testimonials that we're getting. We are doing a headache study. We are doing an HSCRP study, should start this year.
Oh,
That's an inflammatory marker,
right.
typically with cardiovascular disease and cancer.
Yeah.
We are doing a more formalized sleep study. So we did that ad hoc study that I mentioned. 100% of people
Okay.
reported improvements in their sleep when they were taking the product. So we're going to formalize that into a clinical trial. And finally, another thing that you mentioned, we're doing a wrinkle and age spot study.
Oh,
So these
yeah.
are the things that we have to do to be able to make the claims. What I will share is my father-in-law, at about the 3-month mark, he was walking with a cane, started to not need the cane,
Yeah.
started to walk more, right? An obvious outcome. And because he's
Right.
walking more, not because of our product, but because he's walking more, he started losing weight, and then he started walking more. It was this whole systemic kind of benefits. And
Wow.
that's what we see in month 3.
Yeah. Wow. That is wonderful. I have continue to notice that my eyesight just keeps on improving. It's not 20/20 yet, but I think it's getting close. Lots of times I have to take my glasses off to see, because the glasses, I don't know what they do. They don't work like they used to. I still have diplopia, which is double vision.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And so I'll see two of everything without my glasses, or three. And that's just a big nuisance. So
Yeah.
I'm working on my eyesight, not only with the C60, but like, okay, eyes, let's work together so that we only see one image, not two or three. And it's, it makes for funny scenes when you're, for instance, when I used to hang clothes out on a clothesline before, when I still had a clothesline, I would go out there and I would be going like this, trying to, which one of those is the
Which
line?
is the real one?
Right. Yeah, things like that. And so I've been working on the diplopia. I'll let you know if it goes away. So
yeah, it's interesting because the rods and cones in your eye also have a significantly elevated amount of mitochondria in them.
yeah.
So again, your brain, of course, it's so closely related to your brain,
Right.
intertwined with your brain. I don't think
Yes.
it's to the level of 2 million, but it is significantly elevated above, the 50 to 5,000 that is in the rest of your system. So you would expect outsized impacts on brain function, eyesight, etc.
Yeah.
And so that's why we get those
Hearing,
testimonials.
I have some family members that are younger than I am, and they can't hear
Oh,
half
wow.
the stuff that they used to be able to hear. And I'm like, you ought to try some C60 Evo. That's really helpful. And I think it improves your sense of taste as well.
Mm.
So yeah, lots of little reasons. Um, and
And
some big ones.
and I don't know if you want to now show the landing page if that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
So the landing page is c60evo.com/Penny Kelly. Yep. So you want to make sure that they use that appropriate link.
Yep. Okay.
What we have some of our best sellers here, our olive oil, a couple different oils. We're going to talk about this facial serum. We have a dog and cat kind of lover set, but the real discounts are a little bit further down. You've got some great testimonials here. So you can see that these discounts are saving some money on 2 bottles, on 3 bottles, and on 6. The reason we did the 3 and the 6 is because, remember, we kind of mapped out a 3-month response to the product. Right. And so with the 6, where the bigger discount is, you could take 3 of those for yourself and give 3 to somebody who you think needs them. Right. Or I might be selfish and keep it for myself. But go ahead and do that. Also, there is a discount on subscription. So even if you just want to try 3 one time, go ahead and take that subscription. You can cancel it at any time. And our customer service team is amazing. They have 1,000 5-star reviews on Google. They're not trained to talk you out of canceling your subscription. They're trained to help you, and they do an amazing job. Yeah. So that's this. Our next kind of favorite package is what's called our Inside Out set, where you're using our advanced facial serum, which is amazing and has the ESS60 molecule in it, has the great scent of rosemary in it. That's from an essential oil, so it's not a fragrance. And so you want to treat yourself on the inside and on the out. And you have the same scenario here, 2, 3, or 6, because you're looking for what's going to happen over that 3-month period. Also, subscriptions, really valuable. Save that additional money. We're cool with that. And then frequency ask questions, 100% customer satisfaction guaranteed. So it is a 0 risk. And yeah, we're excited to be working with you. And thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to connect with you and your audience.
I think it's really important. What I see, what I sense, what I hear, as I work with various people, and I love to read the comments under the various interviews that I do. And there's this, I'm going to call it a wisening up around health that's occurring. And people are not drinking as much.
Mm.
They are much more aware of the food they're putting in themselves. Some that I thought would never start exercising are at least starting with a few things,
Wow. Yeah.
discovering the benefits of that. Uh, C60 is a huge boost to being able to make those kinds of changes and stick to those kinds of changes.
Mm.
And the result is a culture that's getting wiser and better. And it's slow. And there was no sign of that when I started teaching 45 years ago. And now I see it in a lot of places. And I'm like, we're underway. We're moving in the right direction. And I think that's going to balloon and blossom into something absolutely wonderful for us, the people of this world.
Yeah.
No matter what country you're in. Actually, this morning I woke up and I lay there for a minute and I thought, wow, I am so excited about what's happening, about our world, about life, about everything. And then my second thought was, where did that come from? And it's there. And I thought, just leave it alone. It's the first day of Mercury retrograde. Maybe that's the effect of Mercury this time, is to say, we've all been under this great stress. Maybe there'll be a relief from stress. But,
Yeah.
I think that if you're taking the right things and you're supporting the body, no matter what's going on in you, that support makes a huge difference, huge. And
Yeah.
that then supports you to make another change, which then is the foundation for making another change. And it snowballs. So, yeah. So, let me just encourage everybody out there who's listening, get some C60. If you have a skin problem, if you have whatever the problem,
Mm.
I always had a problem with not enough weight. And
Mm.
I have been able to stabilize my weight and quit worrying about being too thin. So that is wonderful. Just the stabilization. And if that's working in the opposite direction for people trying to lose weight and they get to their ideal, they'll stabilize. So,
Mm.
yeah. So just check it out. C60 Evo, or what do you call it? ESS 60?
Yeah, the molecule's ESS60. The link is c60evo.com/Penny Kelly. And
Yeah.
I will share it. Those specials that I ran, you can only find them at c60evo.com/Penny Kelly. And there's also a coupon code that we didn't mention. So we don't give it out. You have to go to that landing page in order to get that coupon code. And I think that gets you an additional $15 off your initial order. So please go visit c60evo.com/Penny Kelly.
All right. Yeah. And thank you, everybody, for listening. Be healthy. Okay. Bye bye.